Hello and welcome back to the channel. Huge thank you to the sponsors. It is for you that I make these videos. Thank you very much indeed for your generosity. Today we will talk about two of my favorite sails. Admittedly, I prefer them in the 17th century than in the 18th, but so be it. At the moment we have a model, an example of 18th century, so let's look at them a little bit. And the square sails under the bowsprit, or associated with the bowsprit, they were not always under it, had the task of balancing the rig. To some extent, in a previous video, I have already discussed exactly this, how the sail plan changed, and admittedly it was in the context of the drivers, but this, what I said back then for the driver or spanker, or mizzen course if you prefer, is applicable also to the spritsail and the spritsail topsail, the square ones. In the early days, in the 16th century, we do have a spritsail. In fact, we have it probably since the 15th century. We have evidence for it, but we do not have spritsail topsail. Throughout the 16th century, we have the spritsail, again, no spritsail topsail. But in the 17th century, sometime after about 1612, certainly by 1620, we see the arrival also of the spritsail topsail. And that was done by adding a sprit topmast at the end of the bowsprit. It was secured in a very similar way to the topmast on any of the other masts. Yes, it does look vulnerable to us, but it is remarkable how rarely they were damaged. I can't think of a single logbook that has spoken of damaged spritsail topmast. So it could not have been quite so vulnerable. Experiments with the modern square riggers, specifically with Kroum, had suggested that the spritsail topmast and topsail were excellent for balancing the helm of the vessel. In the case of the Kroum, because the topsail is half the size that it should be, it is not contributing much power to the vessel or speed, but it is certainly contributing to its balance under sail. By the turn of the 18th century, we begin to see the disappearance of the spritsail topmast, especially on smaller vessels. Three-deckers, however, continued to carry them all the way into the 1720s, if not later. But jib booms began to emerge on smaller vessels. Certainly during the War of Spanish Succession, they already were beginning to emerge. And yet, the topmast is still ruling supreme. In the decade after the end of the war and the mid-1720s, all smaller vessels lose the spritsail topmast and have only jib booms. On larger three-deckers, all the way into the 30s, really into the 40s, you have a remnant, let's say, of a spritsail topmast, but it is the jib boom that is really carrying. This is extending the plan of the fore and aft sails at the expense of the square sails. But the spritsail and the spritsail topsail never disappear. The only thing that changes is how they are rigged. From here on, the spritsail remained permanently rigged to the bowsprit, furrowed in place, reset when needed, usually downwind. It was adapted for the conditions in which it operated. The holes in the bottom corners, in the clew ends of the sail are not for nothing there. They are to allow the water to just leak out from the sail and not rip it to pieces. Another characteristic of these sails is that they do have reefing bands, but they are diagonal. So that you have quite significant variety of how you can, if the winds are heavy, if waves are high, the leeward side of the sail is going to be furrowed, and it is only the windward that will continue to move. And it is doing exactly the same job that it has always done. The task is to balance the rig properly, to keep the head of the ship off the wind. The SPRITSAIL topsail, on the other hand, by this stage is rigged running. That is to say, it was struck and was brought in board the ship. It was not permanently rigged. It was rigged on a traveler. It was shot up to the end of the bowsprit when and as needed. It is remarkable how few images are surviving of the SPRITSAIL topsail in use. But it is mentioned periodically in logbooks and accounts. Therefore, it still must have been a useful sail and still must have been used. Among the sources of information, besides contemporary models and rigs, of course, is the ever-present, ever-discussed young sea officer sheet anchor, Darcy lever. To some extent, this is also discussed by In Seamanship in the Age of Sail by John Harland, an outstanding book. He has done all the research. His book, I believe, should be one of the main references to any ship modeler who wants to rig and place sails on their models. But Darcy lever is a very useful source. It is contemporary. It is an actual sea officer's. And here on this plate, he illustrates exactly how the SPRITSAIL is set up with the lines that control it, etc. Obviously, there is a cutout of the bowsprit because otherwise it will obscure the view of the SPRITSAIL topsail. Lovely sails, very useful in specific conditions, very rarely depicted, very rarely modeled properly unless you decide to put all the laundry up on the masts and the yards. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a most wonderful rest of your day. Head over to the SYSTER channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the sponsors. I'll see you next time.